Hello everybody, and thank you for joining us for today's thought for the day. The readings for today are Esther chapters 9 and 10, Jonah chapter 1, and Hebrews chapter 6 and 7. Today's thought is taken from our Jonah reading and is called, Then the Men Feared. Jesus spoke of the sign of the prophet Jonah in Matthew 12 and verse 39 as being a sign of great significance. Jonah came forth alive from the belly of a great fish we read of in Jonah chapter 1 and verse 17. We believe it was a special fish, one of a kind, not a sort of whale. The text says, the Lord appointed a great fish to swallow up Jonah. We conclude that the great fish was a special creature God brought into being, and God saw that this special creation was in the right place at the right time when he needed it. This remarkable event foreshadowed the death and resurrection of Jesus. The time came when the Lord spoke to the fish, and it vomited Jonah up out onto dry land, not just a damp, sandy beach. Jonah was then ready and willing to do what the Lord commanded and hastened to preach at Nineveh, chapter 3, verse 3. Now there is a parallel here with the disciples of Jesus. After Jesus came out of the grave, he gave them a renewed preaching commission. It was now to the ends of the earth, Acts chapter 1, verse 8, and then ascended to heaven. Today that commission is nearing completion, but the labourers are few. Luke chapter 10 verse 2. But there is a further lesson too. Note the impact the sudden cessation of the storm had on the sailors. With great reluctance they had thrown Jonah overboard. They had not wanted to do this. They rowed hard to get back to dry land, but they could not, for the sea grew more and more tempestuous. Initially, each cried to his own God, but before they threw Jonah overboard, they called out to the Lord, to Jonah's Lord. They said, O Lord, let us not perish for this man's life, and lay not on us innocent blood. When they threw him overboard, the sea ceased from its raging. How awesome this experience must have been. Then the men feared the Lord exceedingly, we read, and they offered a sacrifice to the Lord and made vows, verse 15 and 16. We are not told any more about these sailors, but surely this changed the rest of their lives. We can see a parallel here with at least one centurion and the Roman soldiers who witnessed the awesome events at the death of Christ. One said, truly, this man was the Son of God, recorded in Mark 15 verse 38. Some had been aware of his power to do miracles, for example in Luke chapter 7 verse 2 and 3. The first Gentile convert actually was a centurion, Acts chapter 10. We have the testimony of the Roman historian Tacitus that Nero put to death hundreds of Christians in Rome, and that happened in AD 64. We conclude that many Roman soldiers and not a few centurions, when they'd finished their service in Israel, returned home convicted of the one and only real faith and shared that faith. Truly, then they feared the Lord. And what about us? Thank you for joining us for today's thought. If you have enjoyed today's thought, please share it online. And remember, whatever you do, do all to the glory of God, remembering that the antidote to sin is to do good. Thank you for listening, and God bless.